What if one day you realized that you just weren't meant to be a fighter? Yet the only thing people ever said was that you were born into a family of the royal guard, and so no matter what you thought, you had to become a knight. If that was the only thing you were ever told, I wonder then, would you have chosen a different path?
Breath of the Wild is a love letter to the fundamentals of game design, with an engaging loop that will keep you playing for hours and hours on end. Gotta find that next shrine, gotta climb that next tower. This Zelda game, arguably a lot different than many of its most recent predecessors, manages to strip away any limitations or restrictions, leaving nothing but an award-winning formula that even 3 years later continues to be captivating. Instead of collecting different items that grant new abilities, Breath of the Wild gives you the entire toolbox from the start. With your Sheikah Slate, you can make bombs, levitate metal, stop time, and make ice platforms. You can even take pictures. With these tools at your disposal, virtually every puzzle in the game is solvable, and what makes this arsenal of abilities so great is finding new and innovative ways to use them. The game gives you the toys, but it's still up to you how you use them. The combat in Breath of the Wild is very reminiscent of Dark Souls and other third-person action RPGs. There are many different types of weapons in the game, all with their own unique traits and power level. Two-handed weapons were often heavy hitters, throwing enemies backwards, but were slow and lacked any defense. On the opposite end, there are fast-swinging swords. May not send enemies flying, but lets you use your shield more easily to defend against attacks. And you definitely want to avoid getting hit. Enemies hit like a truck and can be incredibly unforgiving. There's a good chance you're gonna die, a lot, which is fine because the game generally autosaves fairly often. More interestingly, I found myself avoiding a lot of powerful fights just so I didn't have to waste my resources. I appreciated the fact that most fights really felt optional, and I would only engage with them if I had some kind of advantage to gain. A popular criticism of the game is the weapon degradation. Weapons break easily, and they break fast, and there's no way to fix them. And while I agree, I think it would have been nice to have weapons that didn't explode as often, I really didn't find this mechanic as huge of a negative. The entire game is built around getting new weapons, bows, and shields, and after you let go of the fact that you're gonna lose the weapon you're attached to, the degradation system didn't really bother me. When I'm tactically avoiding hard fights and going all out during boss battles, managing my inventory of weapons just seemed like an extra layer to the combat. I wouldn't say the durability system is a positive, but for how it works in the context of the game and its themes, I never had an issue with it.
You head down to middle. Good luck. It's all you.
The dungeons in Breath of the Wild are really amazing set pieces, with a nifty mechanic that has you shifting parts of the dungeon to solve inventive physics puzzles. None of them really felt challenging, but some of the boss fights at the end made up for it. Speaking of boss fights, other than the random ones littered throughout the world, the dungeon boss fights really felt underwhelming and a bit bland. Each of the 4 main boss fights basically have the same big bad, but with different tactics and movesets. It definitely lacks the variety you see in older Zelda titles. The world you explore is really breathtaking. There are very few games that honestly do an open world justice. Instead of littering my map with every possible thing I could find, the exploration is left up to the player. It's just like in Dark Souls when you can see a castle off in the distance and you're like, I really want to go there. It's that kind of self-driven discovery that really makes the exploration in this game magical. It's never a boring travel either. You can ride your horse across Hyrule, paraglide high off the mountains, and probably the greatest mechanic in exploration, the ability to literally climb anything. The fact that I can climb up a cliff to get a vantage point and then paraglide to my next destination, it's an exploration and discovery loop that's incredibly satisfying, because more often than not, there's some kind of secret right around the corner. Better yet, after you've already visited some areas, you can easily teleport back. There are even weather effects in the game, and if you're not wearing the right clothes for the climate, you could start dying. Lightning will strike anything metal you're equipped with, and rain makes climbing a literal slippery nightmare. The biggest and juiciest part of the game are the shrines and towers. Each shrine acts like a mini dungeon or puzzle room, and at the end of each one, you get a spirit orb, which you can trade 4 of them in for more health or more stamina. Most of the shrines offer a fun and unique challenge, and many of them don't require anything but the toolkit of abilities you acquired at the beginning of the game. There's over 100 of them, so get cracking. The towers are like your standard Ubisoft Assassin's Creed building. Climb to the top, get a lay of the land, and then paraglide off towards your next destination. They're not incredibly original, but most of them involve some kind of environmental challenge to successfully climb up, making the encounters fun and engaging. There's also a plethora of side quests, from tracking down memories, buying your own house, and even building a whole town from scratch. There's even 900 Korok seeds scattered throughout the wild, if the rest of the game isn't enough for you. Cooking has also been added to the game. Throw a bunch of food into a pot and cook yourself something special. Between exquisite dishes and powerful elixirs, make sure you prepare some just in case the going gets rough. The game's greatest mechanical achievement in design is the freedom you have to play however you want. From the very get-go, you can head straight to the final boss to beat the game. The final chapter is always lingering there on the map, waiting to be challenged by the chosen champion. And well, the finale is really the best part of the game. The openness of Hyrule Castle really lets you utilize all your strengths at reaching the pinnacle. The great exploration, challenging battles, and stellar orchestra all culminate together for one of the greatest and most memorable end levels in history. The narrative also takes inspiration from Dark Souls, revealing a lot of the story through environmental design and random notes scattered throughout the world. You could just skip it all and head straight to the final boss, but you'd surely be missing a lot of the substance that makes the ending all that more satisfying. The biggest and best parts of the narrative are when Link reawakens his lost memories, triggered by finding a location that him and Princess Zelda visited in the past. These fully voiced cutscenes offer a lot of context and great character development, even for the stoically quiet Link. Admittedly, it would have been nice to hear the protagonist talk, but at least the game has a diary excerpt that explains how he carries the world's burdens in his silence. It's little pieces like this that really make the game's story shine through, and with many of the cutscenes you can see the struggles, the growth, the dedication each character has. The game by far has the most well-developed characters in the series' history. All the nostalgic nods are there too. If you've played a Zelda game before, there will almost certainly be a character or location you'll recognize, and they were always a welcome sight to see. The game's art is gorgeous. The balance between a painted world and realism really makes the setting feel magical yet grounded. Every character and enemy has a soft look to them, but never gets too Pixar or cartoon-like. And looking out at the open world always gives you a sense of wonder, making you want to stay and further explore. The music is the game's weakest foothold. Aside from some lovely instrumentals from Cass and the amazing over-the-top orchestrations, the game's audio design, while incredibly polished and still better than many of the games out there, was a little too simplistic for my taste. Most of the ambient music and jingles were all done with just a piano, and like I said, it's all really good, but I think the other Zelda titles have better overall soundtracks. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is truly a masterpiece of a game, combining many well-polished mechanics into one of the most memorable experiences on the Nintendo Switch. It takes the open world design to a whole different level, and lets the players choose how they want to progress through the game. It's an unforgettable experience, getting a 10 out of 10. At the end of the day, the weapon durability never detracted from my experience, and I eagerly await the game's sequel. If you enjoyed the review, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you're not already a member. Remember to follow me on Twitter, and if you enjoy watching some good old-fashioned live gameplay, come join me on Twitch. Next month, on the debut night of Cyberpunk 2077, I'll be doing my first ever live stream. All the links are in the comments down below. Once again, this is GameGhost signing off. Stay safe out there.